Okay, this is kind of weird. I thought I had set this to 7 o'clock, but I had to live up to my name as the completely biased, totally untrustworthy, best source of misinformation on the internet. That is the Crimson News Network. So not even the start time is right. Apparently, I intended to go live at 7 o'clock. And apparently it got set for 6:30 regardless. So I don't know what the fuck is going on with that. Anyway, well, that being said, guess that one's on me. Either way, tonight there are a couple of things to talk about, particularly with some more art debate and stuff. There is, some idiotic takes on anime, new announcements for like upcoming shows and all of that. And of course, this had to be the one night where I where I had a new segment to put out on this series on this stream. But hey, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna keep going with it. Either way, there's a lot to talk about tonight. A couple of interesting articles that came up. First look, I guess, at One Piece's new season. And like I said, new segment tonight. I am going to start doing at the end of every show a tier list of like female characters, basically. I'm calling it the waifu tier list, but really it's just I'm making a tier list of any and every female character who plays a significant role in the story of whatever anime I'm talking about that week. And it'll expand anime by anime each week. Now, so we'll be taking basically one anime every week, and then taking all the female characters, putting them on the tier list, and we will move on to the next week. But that said, let us get into the news for the night. And where is it? Hello, Arceus. How you doing? Apparently, I was late, even though I thought I had set the time to 7 o'clock. So who knows where everyone else is? They probably just think I forgot about this. Cancel. I need to figure out which one I'm talking about, which one I'm covering first. Share screen. There we go. There we go. So, first big announcement as far as, upcoming anime goes. So, the Unaware Atelier Meister TV anime season 2 announced with a celebratory visual drawn by Naharu Furukawa, the artist of the manga adaptation. It did not contain any information about season 2, which surprises me because this isn't a particularly outstanding anime. Like, the first season is like all right, kind of enjoyable. It's nothing particularly I'm all right. I'm making popcorn to watch this too. Anyway, it has its gimmick, but the gimmick wears out really fast. It's not particularly anything special. I'm surprised that this gets a season 2, and there are no other better announcements for the season. I'm assuming that this is probably something where it either did very well in Japan, which warranted a season 2, or it already had a season 2 lined up before the end of the last season, and they were just working out the details and didn't announce it right away, which would be weird. But I'm going with this probably succeeded enough in Japan in getting people into, whatever like mainline source material it has, that they're justifying, putting it up on the screen again. Hello, JM. How you doing? Not that I would recommend watching season 2 of this. After one season, you've seen about everything that this one has to offer. That is literally all it has. Probably should have organized these a little bit better. Got that. We'll save those for last. I guess we will go in this order. So the next one on the list is a new fantasy rom-com TV anime, Yukawa. There was a cute girl in the hero's party, so I tried confessing to her. So this releases in January 2026 and is a fantasy rom-com about a guy reborn as a minion of the Demon Lord who falls in love with the saint from the hero's party who aim to take his boss down. You already know my opinion on it. Yes. So like this seems like it's going to be like one of those okay fantasy rom-coms that comes out every season. One of those things that just sort of like fills a time slot that you watch just because you can. I don't expect this to be anything super special. In fact, the premise of it seems pretty bland. It relies pretty heavily on a lot of tropes. Doesn't seem to do them in a particularly interesting way or make a creative spin on it. But hey, I like fantasy. I like romance. So I'll probably continue on with that. What is the name of this one? There was a cute girl in the hero's party, so I tried confessing to her. Also, Biggles, did this say 6:30? Because I thought I said it to 7. I think I read this manga. Next up on the list, as far as announcements go, there is Dark Gathering Season 2 officially announced. So I didn't end up watching the first season of this. It said 5:30 Biggles time. Weird. I guess it didn't save my fucking adjustment to the time schedule. Or it just totally screwed everything up. Whatever. From now on, I'm going to be starting these at 7 o'clock. Anyway, Dark Gathering Season 2. Now, I like this manga a decent amount. I don't particularly have any problems with the manga. I didn't really care much for the anime adaptation of this, but a lot of people did seem to really like it. And it's one of those rare few supernatural manga that actually does supernatural stuff in a decent way. I forgot I got to record Goblin Slayer and I am drunk. Oh, shit. Fucked up Biggles on the way, huh? Anyway, so if you are unfamiliar with the premise of Dark Gathering, effectively this little girl can see like ghosts and stuff. And the main character of the series is a college student who has a supernatural ability to attract evil spirits. So they basically team up so that she can get revenge on the evil spirit that, basically took her mom and dad's souls. It's kind of fucked up. Wasn't a particularly huge fan of, like I said, of this adaptation. It felt a little dry. But it could have been worse. This one, though, is the one I am more excited about with the announcement. So here is, from Anime TV. I wonder if you guys can see this. I hope that'll help you a little bit more as we're doing this. So according to this account here, Heavenly Delusion is renewed for a season 2 by Kodansha, according to recent IP filings. Now, I really, really like this show, and I think it does deserve a season 2. The issue I have is that I don't trust this kind of talking right here. Like, I don't see a source here. Oh, I guess there is a source here. And if I can translate this to English. Okay. So it looks like they just renewed the trademark on the bulletin, is what it looks like. Either way, this one definitely deserves a season 2, and if this is true, which I really fucking hope it is, that'll be awesome because it's one of my favorite like post-apocalyptic kind of anime. I want to know more about what's going on. Like, how did the world get this way? What were they doing to the kids? What exactly? Well, I mean, we kind of know what Maru is. Kind of, yeah, but not really. I think Promise Neverland is a little bit more. Yeah. And this is the last one to go over for the night. So, this is by the Couple of Cuckoos creator. So we'll see how this one goes. I caused their apocalypse. They said Monica wasn't worthy of best character, so I ended their world. Is it rated R Promise Neverland? Not necessarily. So the Promise Neverland is more like an anime adaptation of the movie Chicken Run. Heavenly Delusion, not quite. They have some superficial similarities, like just the sort of post-apocalyptic setting. The monsters, I mean, there are monsters in the world. And you have a setting where kids are basically being raised in a like closed off sort of environment under false pretenses. But their stories feel very, very different in a lot of ways. Whereas the Promised Neverland is more so focused on moving towards like I guess the children escaping to safety. Heavenly Delusion is more so focused on the idea of trying to fix something wrong with the world. But that said, back to this. So, Hiragi-san's House of Vampires. This is by the Couple of Cuckoos creator, which I don't trust that at all, because fuck that show. Teenage boy is adopted by a kind family living in a mansion, but soon he finds out they have a huge secret. Yeah, they're blood-sucking vampires who are going to take advantage of him. You're not too terribly late, Jeremy, because we've only really just started. I started at 7 o'clock Central, so we've only been going for about 14 minutes. So you're okay. We're only just getting through anime announcement, anime and manga discussion right now. So yeah, that's pretty much everything to do with that topic. Those are all the new things, particularly looking forward to Heavenly Delusion. I got to get back into reading the Dark Gathering manga. And I don't understand why, of all things, the Unaware Atelier Meister gets a season 2. But hey, tis what it is. So yeah, I'm gonna try and continue on with this stuff so that we can get to the ultimate waifu tier list at the end of the show, and then move on from there. But before we do that, we got to talk about the latest Art Wars debacle. So this is why this title exists. Tonight's episode of Crimson News Network is brought to you by Cats and Rainbows, particularly an artist called Neko and their controversy that got them involved in some rather crazy shit. So this is where it all really starts. So the artist was taking commissions and took a bunch of commissions and didn't vet them. And this, of course, led them to taking in commissions that they didn't want to do. So they politely came to this person and said, "Hi, hello, Richie. I was reviewing the wait list and came across your Yume ship request. I truly apologize for the mistake in adding you before carefully reviewing it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to work on this piece as I don't draw queer couples." We'll get to that part in a bit, okay? We'll talk. That's basically where all of the drama starts. But we'll read through this message, go through the replies and everything, and continue on. Please, no, it's absolutely nothing against your character or idea. It simply comes to my personal religious beliefs, and I'm trying to stay faithful to that. I deeply apologize for not clarifying this earlier, and for any inconveniences or disappointments this may cause. I'm sincerely grateful for your interest in Neko Mission, and I truly appreciate your understandings. Thank you so much again, and I'm really sorry for the oversight. Anyone who wants to call themselves a cat is trouble. Just like people who want to call themselves Crimson Law. Anyway, so this is where it starts. Basically, person has religious belief, says they don't want to work on, or I don't want to make art of a couple of gay characters. Personally, well, we'll get to that. So the person whose commission got turned down then goes and says, "Well, gang, I wouldn't recommend trying to commission if you're a queer person, I guess." So the artist then responded to this. "Hi, everyone. I didn't expect to wake up with a notification or was expecting to. But I truly didn't expect this would blow up. First of all, I'm very sorry for the disheartening experience of what happened to the fellow past client who had a queer couple character in their reference. I just opened VGen in a few days ago and was not aware of how the system worked. It was completely my fault for not checking and understanding how request submissions are done. I wrote an important note saying do and don't will be discussed in DMs, since I was used to how other platforms work, but VGen is different. You have to submit a request first before being able to DM. This was my fatal mistake. No, I'm not queerphobic. I'm surrounded by many kind queer people, both in real life and online, who have helped shape me into a kinder person. But apparently, I chose not to engage in activities related to queer relationships while still being friends with queer people. I take full responsibility for the misunderstanding and will make sure this never happens again. I will update and rebuild my page with clear guidelines and info, and deeply apologize to those who felt uncomfortable because of my lack of awareness. Thank you to everyone who took the time to point it out. I truly appreciate the chance to learn how to grow from this, and I hope we can be peaceful. But if you still have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll try to do my best to clarify. So that is effectively the start of this whole thing. And now to quickly talk about this situation before getting into the responses and all of the drama that this caused. You have to understand that people do have the right to refuse service to specific people. That's just an innate thing. So, and this goes both ways. We'll particularly keep it to artists, okay? But this goes both ways. Say a gay artist doesn't want to draw straight couples. They don't want to take commissions for that. They are perfectly within their rights to do exactly that. They have every right to do that. So if a religious person says that they do not want to draw art of a gay couple, they're also within their rights to do that. Now, do I particularly think that this person's religious views? Now, do I particularly think that this person has a well, they got a Palestine flag in their bio, so I'm assuming that they are Muslim in some sense. But I don't like this. This goes back to the whole like bake the cake thing. Um, I don't particularly see why you would refuse service to someone in this sense, but I can also acknowledge that people do have the right to, because the moment you are obligated to serve everyone, you're starting to argue for a form of slavery. You're basically talking about, um, compulsory service. I don't particularly agree with the creator's choice to do this, but they have a right to refuse to take commissions. It's as simple as that. So that basically caused a ton of backlash. I don't agree particularly with their situation, but I don't think like this is the biggest issue out there. Like, oh no, someone decides to like not draw some gay characters. It's a whatever fucking issue. Just go to someone else. Now, I'd say the same to any person who starts complaining about a gay guy, creator who doesn't want to make straight stuff. Like, just go to someone else. Don't harass them. Let them do their thing. Like, we don't need to make a huge internet stink out of this whole thing, but we'll continue on. So we'll start back up with this. So, hello everyone. I'm sorry for leaving this account without updates for the past few days. During that time, I spent a lot of time reading, observing, and trying to understand the various perspectives shared by different people. I kept the replies open because I believe everyone has their own view, and there's nothing wrong with them sharing them respectfully. Among the many messages I received, I want to express my deepest gratitude to those who offered support and kindness. Regardless of the main issue, I will continue to stand by my decision and have since updated my VGen terms of service. Moving forward, I'll make sure to be more mindful and do thorough research before making any decisions. I also want to thank those who showed concern for my well-being. Some people mentioned that I might have violated VGen's TOS, so I personally reached out to VGen team through email to clarify and apologize for bringing their platform's name into this matter. The VGen team kindly responded, confirming that I'm allowed to decline clients' requests based on my personal boundaries and that didn't violate VGen terms of service. I'm still active on VGen, and will continue taking commissions, this time with clear preparation, awareness, and professionalism. And while this is social media, I truly hope everyone can be more mindful and take the time to verify information before making statements about things that haven't been confirmed. There have been various forms of misinformation spreading about me, which unfortunately shift the focus away from the main issue. One of it being me having drawn porn or NSFW. I don't hold any resentment toward those who misunderstood or spoke out of confusion. I understand how quickly things can escalate online. At the end of the day, I only wish for a healthy and respectful environment where both artists and clients can communicate openly without fear of misrepresentation. I'll keep striving to create art and build connections that reflect kindness and respect for everyone involved. I'd also like to sincerely apologize regarding my recent WhatsApp status. No, I do not wish anyone to ever hurt themselves. The caption I wrote was, "I've had several moots saying this to me." Hopefully, anyone that jumped on me won't do the same thing to anyone else. Basically, it's a very long apology where the whole time this person is just being respectful. And again, I don't particularly like, even as a religious person myself, I can hold views about things and still not want to, and still not like look at it and come to the same conclusion as this person here. If I were in their shoes, I would have probably just drawn the art and then been done with it. But I wish for a planet where human beings were just decent people and respect others, but unfortunately, that won't ever happen. Yeah, true, pretty much. So this is where we start to get going here. So some of y'all will see this and say she is not a fucking homophobe, LGBTQ/queer ship. So this is the update to her to their terms of service here. And now keep in mind, like I said, if this person actually is a Muslim, in a lot of countries, because Palestinian flag and everything, or are they Christian? I don't actually know. Either way, this comes up because there was that whole issue with the Christian baker a while ago who refused to bake the cake for the gay couple's wedding, which I think was a stupid decision, but well within the person's rights to say that they have boundaries, they have religious beliefs, they won't support something. But at the same time, it's like I don't agree with their decision. I just don't. Anyway, so yeah, that's where we're at. If I can go back. So anyway, this is why I brought up this particular response, because I got a response from this guy right here. The LGBT community's history needs to be studied because they were at the cusp of general acceptance and decided one day we should be allowed to do whatever we want all the time and no one should be able to tell us no. Now no one can stand them, including LGBT people who just want to be left alone. And this is the big problem with this kind of stuff, is I by no means have a problem with, the LGBT community. I generally try to keep away from grouping people into one specific or labeling people by groups and being like, it's all women, it's all gays, it's all blacks or something like that. It's the whole crime statistic argument. Once you start using information about a group to start bludgeoning individuals as if that individual conforms to the worst demographics within their group, that is where you start to come across. That is where you start to hit the boundary of bigotry and all of that. That is where you get the actual racism, the actual homophobia, the actual all of that kind of stuff. I feel like lumping it into just this might be oversimplifying it, but what he does touch on here does kind of have a part in it. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to politics and all of that, and this is included with, and you can say the exact same thing about the Christian right, is they have also done this exact same thing, to where they pissed off the common person and made everyone want to dissociate with them because they acted like insane lunatics. It happens to a bunch of groups. It's not just this one specific group. It's not just the gays. Anyway, so here's actually a very interesting response, because this guy was someone who went through something similar. So in his game, there were several people who requested him to put in some gay stuff in his indie game, and he's just like, no, I don't feel like it. Like gay flags or whatever. He just decided, no, I don't want to do all the stuff. I'm just making a game. It's irrelevant. So he responded to this situation. Unfortunately, this post is just gone now. So in my opinion, no creator should be forced to create something they don't feel comfortable with. Develop your skills and express yourself if you care enough. We don't live in a communist society. Nobody should be forced to create propaganda for a political movement. Now, comparing asking for fan art to making, yes, as far as any group goes, it's an interesting thing to say. So try and explain that point of view a little bit more. When it comes to individuals, I try to treat everyone as an individual, regardless of what group they belong to. Because there are people of various different groups, whether it be gay, trans, religious groups like Christian, Muslim, whatever, um, that I have gotten along with very well. People who I have had really good interactions and would absolutely interact with again. I think that lumping individuals into large scale groups and treating them as if they, like I said earlier, conform to the worst demographics of their group is stupid. Everyone's an individual. And while you can point to statistics and everything, oftentimes, like about various facets or whatever, oftentimes, those statistics have complicated reasons for existing. It's the whole crime statistic argument. So, like, you can bring up like the crime statistics divided like by race and everything across the U.S. And you can look at like certain demographics having higher or lower per capita rates of crime. Does that mean that every person who belongs in a high crime group is going to be a criminal? No. Does that mean that most people does that mean like you should treat people differently based on those statistics? No. Again, I'm very a lot of my beliefs are based on the idea that individuality is one of the most important things out there ideologically. You can't treat people like they belong to a statistic, which is why I always try to, distance from the group think, from the labeling, from the, I guess you could say just the general hate. And while in some cases I will make fun of fandoms and stuff and talk about fandoms at large being a certain way, it's effective that way, but you can't use the fandom to specifically bludgeon a particular person. Like Hero Darky Dark has been around here. He's a huge My Hero Academia fan. I would never use the My Hero Academia fandom's behavior to beat up on him. Because guess what? He's a good guy. I like hanging out with him. He's cool. He makes good comics. Ultimately, my beliefs are that every person has a right to live their life the way they want to, so long as they are not harming other people or infringing on other people's rights. When it comes to this situation that we're talking about here, there's a very complicated intersection of two principles. One, people have a right to, ask for what they want. Two, people also have a right to refuse work they don't want. I work construction, which is a service industry, okay? So imagine if I had to take on every single job that was offered to us. It wouldn't work. A company or a person offering a service retains the right to refuse service for whatever reason they decide. That's just simply the necessity of having a service industry, just simply a necessity of having a service industry. Again, I don't particularly agree with the artist's decision, but they do have the right to make it. It's like I don't personally agree with someone's choice to go smoke weed or cigarettes or get absolutely shit-faced drunk. But they have those rights. They have the right to make those decisions for themselves. If Roland wants to go smoke a bowl before a stream, I can't stop him. It's not my right to try and say he can't. If my parents want to smoke cigarettes, I don't agree with their decision, but they have the right to make that decision. If my brother wants to get shit-faced drunk and scream while I'm doing a stream, that's his decision. I don't have a right to tell them based on my own moral position how to do those things. But at the end of the day, it's like you can't specifically judge people off of their groups and off of the groups. You can't try and control everyone based on your own morality. You ultimately just have to treat people as individuals. And I try to be as nice to people as possible because I don't want any conflict. But at the same time, that needs to be a mutual thing. people need to be able to understand that not everyone's going to approve of their lifestyle. Not everyone's going to approve of my religious beliefs. I don't expect them to. Just so long as, they allow them to be. But some people will take it too far. And some people do feel genuinely entitled to some things. And the moment you tell them no, it becomes a problem. That is kind of where we're at. And bringing up this complicated issue was an interesting point for me because it was something that had a lot of nuances to it. And this pretty much sums up how I feel about it. Is I do genuinely believe that no creator should be forced to make something that they are uncomfortable with. And you can apply that to a lot of things. There are, throughout this, and I couldn't refine them again, but I did see them. There were plenty of examples of artists who had things in their bio that said, I don't do straight ships. Those people are 100% within their right to say that they don't do that, regardless of it being similarly discriminatory. Again, I disagree with those decisions, but that person has the right to make that decision. There's a better way to handle it. I often go out of my way to price out projects I don't want to do, especially if money comes up as the first item in the convo, avoids tons of conflict. Yes. Well, I particularly use this example because, again, you even have the right to refuse someone on an individual level for certain things that you believe. Like, if someone doesn't like my political beliefs, they do not have to draw a comic for me. It's as simple as that. The only thing I can do is go say, hey, I want this drawn. Would you do it? And for how much? If they don't want to work with me, that's their choice. I can't force them to work with me. I don't have the right to force them to work with me, even though technically that would count as discrimination based on political or religious beliefs. It doesn't matter. Someone providing a service has the right to refuse that service. But this is the bigger thing that I wanted to bring up in this was the fact that this person started getting maligned, or the information started getting twisted the longer this went on. At first, I thought it was dumb, and then it turned into a bit of a disinformation campaign. So it went from the person just refusing to draw a gay romance fan art, I guess, to people complaining about how this person refused a commission because the person asking for it was gay, which would be wrongful discrimination. I would 100% be against refusing someone's service specifically because they are gay. Or say you refuse someone's service specifically because they are black. That legitimately is discrimination that is outlawed. The difference is, in this case, the person simply refused a commission that refused because the commission was against their beliefs, not because the person's lifestyle was against their belief, as they said throughout their whole thing. And that's where this comes up. Again, this post was deleted. But here we go. So this is so fucking stupid. They would have done a commission for the gay client if the subject matter wasn't gay. The gay client wanted them to draw gay shit, which is against the artist's personal boundaries. This is not the same, and you guys are fucking delusional. You bitch and whine about respect, etc. But when it comes to respecting anyone else, it's like you can't. It seems like you can't fathom it. So there was, this whole thing about this, old meme, but the grape stand and everything. Hey, Garham, it's been a little while since I've seen him. Anyway, this whole situation is fucking stupid. So, let's take this down, share this, bring this up, and we can talk about this part of it next. So here's the original commissioner's comment here. So hello, I would like to make a statement. Regardless of the artist's situation, I don't condone any form or way of harassing them. I never sent any threats to them myself or told others to do so. I did share my DMs with them through VGen, which I immediately got attacked for, getting called even called ever slurs in the book, every slur in the book, but never had any ill intentions as some wanted to paint me with. It was simply to warn my queer mutuals so they don't have to go through the same disappointment as me, because the artist did not specify excluding queers in their TOS at the time of my OG post. I don't agree that just because they were polite, we should excuse queer phobia. While I do agree I could have handled the matter privately, I just never expected that tweet to leave my circle the way it did. I still stand by everything I have said. I don't believe heterophobia exists, but you guys will never be oppressed as you claim to be. Neither do I believe in white racism as a person with white upbringing. This is basically just the it only goes one way kind of excuse. Oops. What the fuck just happened? Damn it. All right, well, here's the whole comment that I was bringing this up for. So, first of all, heterophobia pretty much exists with the word het slop, and examples of artists doing straight ships getting astonishing amounts of hate because of it, plus the brain fucked individuals literally hating their existence. Howdy, questioners. Again, this whole situation is a fucking shit festival of people not understanding how to deal with each other. Harassment campaign against an Indonesian artist for deciding what commission she wants or does not want. So, okay, so this lady's Indonesian, which means there's likely, Muslim faith involved. Okay. And I am reading this off screen because I want to verify what's actually written in here first. So, after the artist gets harassed and even the people who threaten her life, suddenly you're all of do not harass the artist. Close that out. That out. And I can probably close out that whole segment. So, yeah, in short, it's very stupid to get yourself bent out of shape over this whole thing, but I wanted to cover it because it covered some of the more controversial topics, ones that would likely get me canceled. I want people to know that I don't have any particular hatred for anyone who isn't doing stupid shit. If you are just living your life, being a cool person, me and you aren't going to have any problems. It doesn't matter whether you have a different religious belief, a different sexual orientation than me, a different political orientation than me, or even a different skin tone than me. I genuinely don't give a shit. One of my friends, one of the guys who joins me on Fictionology quite regularly, has radically different political views than me. Does that matter to me? Hell no. Even if someone like who came on as a guest happened to be gay, I wouldn't care. If they were not going to make it their entire personality and continue to make something about it or make something out of it, that wouldn't bother me. A lot of people get really up in arms over some of the stupidest things. And it's one of those sort of like victim, I don't want to call it victim mentality things, but like that's really only the best way to describe it. Is there are a decent number of people out there, and this goes regardless of your group, okay? It doesn't matter whether you're straight or gay. There are plenty of people out there with victim complexes on both sides. And there are people who cannot respect the boundaries of others. I mean, for every time you have someone who is out here harassing an artist like this, like tonight, you also have the groups that are like, the Westboro Baptist Church, who protested the death of a soldier or the funeral of a soldier because he was gay, which is an asinine decision, a completely unchristian decision, mind you. But trying to say then that Westboro Baptist Church represents all Christians is wrong. Much like saying this example that I've used tonight represents all gay people on the internet. It does not. And that is my big problem with this. And another reason why I wanted to bring it up tonight is because I wanted to talk a little bit about how people start to lump everyone into their group because the internet gives you so much connection to the rest of the world that you start to associate people by groups rather than as individuals. And it becomes hard to distinguish people like that, and you begin to judge them by their groups rather than treating them as individuals. Rather than, being nice to the single person it now becomes you have to harass everyone who is in the other group. And again, that goes for both sides. There are people on the right who do it. There are people on the left who do it. There are conservatives, liberals, libertarians, authoritarians. All of them do it. But just because one person in a group is shitty or a few people in a group are shitty does not mean that everyone who associates with that group is shitty. Do some groups have larger than normal concentrations of shitty people? Yeah, sometimes they do. You can look at fandoms like that. Some fandoms are really, really fucking chill. Other fandoms have very loud contingents of psychopaths who do awful stuff. Boruto! Ugh. But that does not mean that that does not mean that every person who likes Boruto is out there harassing people or being an asshole on the internet. People need to be able to understand that the world doesn't center around them and that someone else does, in fact, have the right to choose whether they associate with you or not, based on literally everything. The big question is, what are you going to do about it? Because ultimately, in the end, if you want to, completely stop that, you're arguing for a form of authoritarianism over people's moral choices. I think it's stupid to refuse the commission based on that, like I've said multiple times tonight. But they absolutely do have the freedom to do so. Just saying. But with that said, we're going to move on to some other stuff because there are other topics to talk about tonight. And plus, there is also, the tier list shit that I will get to at the end of the night here. So we can do that. Share screen. Let's go. Here we go. So we have the whole Frieren debate going on that is perpetually raging. So this part of the show is fucking stupid, and I'm tired of pretending it isn't. It's the exact opposite extreme of the you can't have evil races bullshit. Half the time, it can't keep consistent on whether or not demons have emotions, but it's part certain idiots cling to. Westboro Baptists aren't Christian in any semblance of the term. So here's the thing is Frieren doesn't say that demons don't have emotions. It simply says that it only uses that demons use emotions to manipulate people. Not that they don't have them. Because even animals have emotions. Your dog can get scared. It can feel the emotion of fear. can also feel the emotion of happiness when you decide to take it out and play with it in the backyard. But again, both sides are completely wrong about Frieren because the entire series, like the morality of the demons in Frieren is entirely irrelevant to the point of Frieren. And people get so caught up on that one thing of they don't put the same weight of on the emotions as humans do. They do have emotions, okay? But it's a completely different experience for a demon than it is for a human. And again, the morality of demons in Frieren is completely irrelevant because, one, they aren't even closely related to humans. They talk about this way later in the series. They're a product of convergent evolution. They are monsters that evolved continually to be more and more like humans, as evidenced by the fact that they disappear into a black mist like just about every other monster. They are not biologically related to humans whatsoever. That's different from, you know, the elves and the dwarves that are in this show. Anyway, to talk a little bit more about one of the scripts that I've been working on, Frieren is a story based in a Japanese cultural sentiment called Mono no Aware. Yeah, that's a term I actually came across. And you know what it means? An appreciation for the impermanence of things. It is this whole idea within Japanese culture that there is beauty in something that doesn't last. That it's special because it doesn't last. And that's a huge part of what Frieren is all about. A lot of people seem to miss this because they're Westerners who sort of focus on one aspect of it and kind of miss the actual interpretation of Frieren. I don't even think Frieren ever really describes the demons as evil. She simply says that they're dangerous and incompatible with humans. That's another thing, is I have to actually go through the manga and fact check that. Because again, if Frieren never talks about the demons specifically being evil, well, there's a whole other part of this that needs to be gone over. In the end, I'm really, really tired of the whole Frieren discourse. Because it is a lot of the same stupid shit. Is people start like interpreting things based on the groups that their opponents are associated with. So, like the right will make certain assumptions about people on the left who are arguing over this, and the left will make certain assumptions about the people on the right who are arguing over this. True that this person says this one scene does talk about, you know, the suicidal empathy part of it. It does sort of address that, but again, that is not the point of Frieren. The whole idea of suicidal empathy is not the point of Frieren. And also, using Frieren to dunk on foreigners is probably not the greatest thing. Just saying. Ultimately, too many people get caught up in like one specific thing. And this is like the same with My Dress Up Darling, is people get so caught up on the high school part of it that they bend themselves out of shape arguing over why it's bad to have that show exist, and completely forget that the show is saying, hey, you know, take pride in what you love, be true to yourself, don't try and like stifle all of your passion. So again, Frieren demon discourse doesn't need to happen, and yet continues to do so. And then, of course, there's this shit right here. The really dumb stuff. So, like, anime fans who hate on people who watch mainstream animes are so weird. Like, I'm sorry I watched Jujutsu Kaisen and not the summer I turned into a bratty rat and my crush kissed me. It really does start to get tiresome when this is the consistent joke about people who make comments about how much, like, mainstream fans can be obnoxious. like, no one's saying that you can't watch Jujutsu Kaisen. The issue is that people who watch exclusively stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen tend to be the most annoying kinds of anime fans that you'll come across. And they will judge you for watching things with more nuance than just, oh, beat up the evil spirit. And we are on the stupid people segment of the night. The stupid ass takes. All right, let's go. It's more psychopathic. Is that why they didn't finish Claymore? I don't know. I don't know why they didn't finish Claymore, to be entirely honest. Anyway, final stupid take of the night is this. And it's hilarious that of all the things to say, you would say if Vegeta was a woman, he'd be one of the most hated characters in anime. And you want to know why that's stupid? Because Android 18 exists. Like, Android 18 basically, did a lot of shit. Android 18 hurt a lot of people. But everyone loves her. So no, if Vegeta was a woman, people would not hate him. He would not be one of the most hated characters in anime. It's as simple as that. Okay. And now that brings us to the next thing to talk about tonight. So I bring this up to sort of talk to add like a little like parting shot to the one of the previous topics here. So in the clear moonlit dusk, TV anime trailer revealed. So this is another January 2026. So a shoujo romance about a girl nicknamed the Prince because she looks like a handsome guy, but then she meets a boy who sees more than her looks. And now this is like it's pretty stereotypical stuff here. You don't need to particularly worry about that. It's more so that there were some interesting replies to this. People, man. I'm like really with these posts, and then people, man. Tom girl. I don't necessarily know. Tom girl would be a dude dressed who looks like a girl. A tomboy is a girl who looks a lot like a dude, or at least acts very boyish, I should say. Anyway, so then we get to the all the replies in this. So the twist is the masculine girl is straight. Literally, who would this appeal to other than dudes with a lesbian conversion fetish? Some of these posts are actually pretty fucking funny. I know it never happened, but I'd love to. I know it had never happened, but I'd love to see something like this with the setup of masculine girl falls in love with a guy, but at the end of the first episode, it's revealed that the masculine girl is actually a trans guy, and instead of being feminized, he starts HRT. You have a great Yuri premise, and then bam, it hits us with, but then she meets a boy. Could have made this gay or lesbian, but instead chose the most boring path. Oh, I got baited by the first by the first few seconds. Okay, I get the idea of tomboys don't have to be lesbians and stuff, but what's the point of it if in the finale it goes back to you can't be a tomboy and straight at the same time. Currently looks like another het slop, not gonna lie. And there you go. Just to bring up a little bit of the yes, actually both groups do actually just hate on each other for no reason. A little bit of a, the point I wanted to make with that was just simply the fact that there are genuinely people who do hate straight romance. There are people on the other side out there who do that. So just as much as you can point to a lot of people hating gay stuff, like I've said on the show, like I don't like watching BL. I don't. It was my least favorite part of the summer Hikaru dies. And I think the whole show would have been better without the gay stuff. But hey, apparently that makes me unempathetic. So moving on to more interesting news. The voice actress of Goku has gotten her own Nendoroid. Masako Nozawa has her own Nendoroid figure. This is a really funny thing to me, but I think it's like absolutely like deserved considering, the cultural impact that she's Licorice Recoil was Yuri coded and it was fun. Yes. Licorice Recoil was most definitely fun. So there's that. There's also this crazy post here of like, these shonen mangas would have a lot of potential if they weren't seinen, which is a weird take. So just Jujutsu Kaisen is dark. Fire Punch has gore. Hunter x Hunter, little to no action. Like this has got to be rage bait. Like these are all wildly successful series. A lot of them pretty good. Don Chainsaw Man, Hunter x Hunter, all really good. I really like Attack on Titan, even though its ending is pretty nihilistic and dumb. Jujutsu Kaisen's cool. It's fun enough. Fuck Fire Punch. I don't need Fire Punch in my life. But other than that, there are a couple of articles to get to tonight, so we will go into those. And then, like I said, we will be doing one anime at the end of every week of CNN that we will be adding to the ultimate waifu tier list. And I say waifu because, like I said, it's just going to be any female character who has a significant role in the story. Hunter x Hunter, little to no fight. Yeah, that's why I think it's rage baiting, because like there is plenty of action in Hunter x Hunter. I guess I can remove that from the stage and share this. So, talking a little bit about One Piece live action. So, the first One Piece season 2 clip drops, revealing Netflix's take on Smoker. So Netflix's live action One Piece is clearly on the move as it continues to promote season 2 ahead of its March 10th, 2026 premiere. The series has recently given fans what they wanted to see the most, with season 3's casting both of Bon Clay and Portgas D. Ace. But next up is a glimpse of Smoker, the White Hunter. Well, eagle-eyed fans already saw this tiny trace of a reveal back when the season 2 trailer started dropping. The series has taken to fleshing out that scene, complete with Smoker's entrance atop his peculiar billower bike. Chomping 2 cigars at once, Callum Kerr Kellenker's portrayal nails down the comical, aggressive masculinity of the one-time adversary in One Piece. So, I actually do think that the guy they've got for Smoker here does a really good job.
What are you standing around for? Fish my haul out with it.
So, look, I know a lot of people will complain about One Piece live action and all that, but like, I genuinely do think that it's a good show. It's one of the better live action adaptations out there, even for its flaws. It's actually enjoyable in and of itself. Would you be much better served watching or reading the actual One Piece? Yeah, probably. But not a lot of people want to sink that kind of time into it. So I think this is at least a decent enough substitute. I mean, here you have Smoker talking with who I assume is Takagi. So there's that. And she looks all right, but of the two, I think Smoker's design looks much, much better. Or Smoker's actor looks much, much better in the role. So there is that. The next article to talk about, though, has to do with DL Site and their recently launched social media platform, Pomu. Or Ponmu. Yeah, it's Pomu. So here we have this. I don't get the hate. I tried watching the anime from the beginning and I ironically stopped about the same point as the live action. Difference being like 50 episodes versus 8. Yeah. Well, a lot of people complain about events being out of order. I complained about events being out of order. And certain things not being lore accurate. But that's literally about it. I do genuinely like One Piece live action, at least the first season. So, otaku friendly Twitter clone Pomu suspends services for the time being due to malfunctions and higher than expected traffic. Restart date to be determined. It was recently announced that Pomu would indefinitely suspend. Oh, hold on, let me make this a little bigger for you guys so that you in the chat can see. So, the digital comic and game platform DL Site's parent company, Asus, recently launched a new social media platform, Pomu, dubbed the secret hideout for otaku. The heavily marketed towards anime, manga, and video game artists and fans alike. Debuting on November 5th, the demo version of the platform ran for less than a week before suddenly being suspended for maintenance. On November 10th, Pomu's official X account announced that the social media service will be halted for an indefinite period of time due to numerous bugs and malfunctions being discovered. Only 2 days after the platform's launch, Pomu management team reported that traffic for the new users and visitors was greater than anticipated, causing it to slow down, especially late at night. They also expressed concerns about the website possibly becoming even heavier during the weekend, asking users to report if they experience any difficulties accessing the platform. Unfortunately, it seems like the website was barely able to survive the weekend because on Sunday morning, November 9th, the team behind Pomu announced that the platform will be entering maintenance with the resumption date scheduled for after Monday until we determine a clear course of action for how the problem. On Monday, November 10th, the Pomu official account followed with an update stating that they are currently working on bug fixes. So here's the thing, is it's not necessarily bug fixes that caused this problem. Because there was something else that was going on with this site when this happened. So Pomu was very heavily marketed as a place for people, for artists to not have to worry about censorship, where they would be able to go and post their art without any sort of fears of like TOS violations or whatever. It was basically going to be the Wild West for otaku. Was kind of how I was informed of it. The issue is that not everyone was happy with that. Malfunctions and higher than expected traffic is a funny way of saying that certain foreign elements flooded the platform with exceptionally obscene material. Really wish once in a while Japanese companies would be explicitly honest about what was happening. Effectively, if I understand the situation correctly on this one, when it came to Pomu, a bunch of people over at Soy Jack Party ended up going over there and spamming a bunch of Nazi and other stuff on there. Basically, they just decided to abuse the TOS and start making a bunch of ridiculous posts. And that, of course, would cause problems because that's just what happens when you garner the attention of a bunch of internet jackasses. It's basically a bunch of people were looking to try and intentionally take it down because they don't like it when there's artistic freedom. Anyway, as long as we're on the topic of artistic freedom, we're going to talk about this article here. So, no interference in creative works. The Japanese government proposes new policy for anime and games expansion in the West. The Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry proposes new policy guidelines for the Japanese content and anime industries. So this October, the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry held its 8th Entertainment and Creative Industry Policy Seminar, during which it proposed 5 key principles of its new policy guidelines for the Japanese content industry, including video games, anime, manga, films, and music. As reported by Otaku Soken, the new guidelines have been announced as part of a strategy to achieve the government's goal of expanding the overseas market size for domestic content by 20 trillion yen by 2023 or 2033. 2023 would be in the past. Going back in time! This comes only a month after Japan Business Federation issued an urgent message calling on the government to provide immediate, large-scale, and long-term support to the country's content industry. The 5 key principles of the entertainment and creative industry policy are listed as follows. Large-scale, long-term strategic support efforts to spread Japanese-made content to the world, no interference in the content of creative works, provide direct support, prioritize those willing to take a challenge. In light of recent events, especially aggressive content restrictions and global pressure from payment processing firms, the third principle of the policy has been attracting attention in particular. As explained by METI, the government's goal to invest in IPs, human resources, and digital technologies, as well as supporting international distribution networks and overseas investments into building fandoms. And consequently, the third principle was suggested to reassure creators that their freedom of expression will be protected and that government backing does not imply the content of their works will be meddled with in any way. Furthermore, Clause 4 of the policy proposal suggests that there will be more transparency behind the support process, meaning less reliance on intermediary companies and more of the support directly reaching those involved in the creation and popularization of content. As for the reason behind the new policy, cites meager results in its previous efforts to expand the overseas market size for domestically produced content. While some of the measures did show results, METI suggested that they were still at a low level compared to the other countries like South Korea. The ministry commented they weren't able to expand the stock of intangible assets and raise labor productivity and wages to a satisfactory level, and are hoping that the new policy helps Japanese produced content conquer the world. So it'll be interesting if this no interference in the content of creative works. One was going to apply to localizers and everything, but given the context of where it's from, I doubt that it's actually going to be applied there. Because that would be the bigger issue, is the fact that just there's a lot of interference on the localization level. I'm not so much worried about the Japanese government being the problem, even though there have been issues of parties wanting to curtail artistic expression in anime. But we'll see how this pans out. And now on for like the final funny piece of news. So, what if I told you that there is now a prehistoric shark named after a Chainsaw Man character? I'm not kidding. Researchers named new prehistoric shark after record-breaking Mappa anime. It is now a scientific fact that Chainsaw Man is anime's largest cultural icon. I would say Demon Slayer probably, but I mean Chainsaw Man is just better. A newly discovered species of shark has been named after Chainsaw Man's beloved devilish mascot, Pochita. So Pochita Sarah, Patricia Canalice, is the name of a recently discovered ancient shark whose fossilized remains were found in the Atacama region of Chile. The first half of the shark's name, Pochita Sarah, in honor of Pochita, the chainsaw devil, who eventually made a contract with Denji to turn him into Chainsaw Man. The second portion of the shark's name, Patricia Canalice, is intended to honor the memory of Patricia Canales, a respected Chilean paleontologist who devoted her life to studying ancient marine fossils in Chile. The name was also meant by researchers to merge scientific recognition with cultural symbolism, creating a tribute both to a distinguished Chilean paleontologist and a globally recognized pop culture figure. So here's the representation of the shark. I love how they made it orange and gray here just because of the whole Pochita thing. First reported in the Chilean newspaper El Diario de Atacama. The newly discovered Pochita Sarah, Patricia Canalice, was found by a team of paleontologists working in the English Bay Formation in Chile. The shark was actually a kind of saw shark whose teeth and shape do give it a striking resemblance to its Chainsaw Man namesake. Artistic renditions of the Pochita Sarah show an orange-tinted skin that further resembles that of Pochita. Yes, again, according to Dr. Martin Chavez Hofmeister, the team named the shark after Pochita specifically because they wanted to create a memorable scientific name that would also connect science with current culture. The fact that Pochita would be synonymous with current culture shouldn't be all that surprising, considering Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze arc, was a major international box office hit that almost instantly became one of the top 5 highest grossing anime films in America. It even dethroned big Hollywood films like Black Phone 2 and Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere to become the top film at the American box office in its opening weekend. Okay, we don't need to talk about that. It's just kind of glazing the Chainsaw Man. It's fucking awesome that Pochita, a shark got named after Pochita. And I absolutely am going to post this in the Discord, and my friend's Discord, I should say. Let's go piqued interest. There we go. Because I'm sure that someone's going to want to talk about that on their own show later on. And no, that is not my Discord. That is a friend's Discord. So, I mean, if you really want to be in there, for whatever fucking reason, I guess I can just copy the link and let's see, view on YouTube. There we go. That would be the Discord link, but yeah, it's just a bunch of us fucking around in there. Anyway, there's that. But that brings us to the final segment of the night. So this is something I'm actually going to be doing more regularly on the show now. Yeah, so many notifications, LOL. Yeah, it's mostly just us being fucking gooners, but anyway, so this is going to be the the official final segment for CNN from here on out. So I am going to start creating a tier list of basically any female character, or well, I should say, I'm calling it the ultimate waifu tier list, but it's going to be any female character who plays a significant role in their anime. And we're going to do this anime by anime. So every week, we're going to go into a new anime and talk about and go over this. So I decided to start with one of my favorites because there are tons of female characters in this series of varying quality. So I'm calling it the waifu tier list, so I'm just going to treat it like I'm rating waifus based on waifu stuff, and we'll go from there. So that being said, to this week, we are starting with ReZero characters. And we'll go through, one at a time and rate them. We'll get to Konosuba. We will get to Konosuba. Anyway. So I collected, regardless of how I feel about them, I collected every female character that has appeared in the anime, plus one that will be in the upcoming anime. So we'll talk about it and add characters week by week. So Amelia F tier, right? Them's fighting words. Okay, so since it decided to load in this order, so first we have Petra Layet. Or Layet. And as far as like a waifu tier goes, I'm not into, little girls, so like F tier. Well, as a character, Petra is a whole lot better than that. I will say that, especially as you get into like later arcs of the series and as you learn a little bit more about Petra and what she's actually capable of. Arc 9, she really does actually shine quite a bit. But I can't talk too much about that because that would spoil not only parts of season 6, but it would also spoil parts of the rest of the series. Similar things can be said about Meili, Portroot. So Meili as a character is going to show up pretty heavily in the next season of the anime, but she has already been introduced in season 1 and season 2. So she was a minor antagonist in season 2. She was a minor antagonist season 1, a major antagonist in season 2. And she ends up basically being a prisoner held captive at the Roswell Manor. She does have some very interesting things happen in Arc 6. Like I said, she plays a bigger role in that part. But as we're making the waifu tier list here, not particularly interested in this character. In her as, waifu material. As a character, much better. Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony, kind of a similar thing. And same with Typhon. As much as I think Typhon's an interesting character, again, I'm not into little girls, so sorry, I'm not a lolicon, okay? But I had to include them because I at least get to talk about these characters and what I think about them. Daphne almost never shows up. She's only relevant because she's the fucking little bastard who created all of the great mob beasts. And Typhon is the one who I believe Subaru has inherited his authority from. Because they have some similar, his authority and her authority have some very similar, logical lines behind them. And there are certain things about this that, about the way that Subaru inherits authorities that I can't quite talk about yet until season 4 comes out. Okay. Shala. Okay, so you guys who are anime onlys have not met Shala yet. And honestly, she is A tier. I won't spoil too much, but she's a goofball. I love her. Camilla, the Witch of Lust. See, she's not really there much. She's super timid and everything. But hey, at least I can respect that. You don't really get much on Camilla in the series. Same with Sekhmet here, the Witch of Sloth. But at least Sekhmet is, fairly hot. Again, not really like the most intricate character or anything, but I don't know. I guess there's a certain aesthetic there. Then you have Satella. I mean, Satella can go in A tier. I mean, if you are into that like yandere sort of obsessive love, she absolutely fits in there. She isn't terrible by any means and is a much more pivotal character of the story, considering she is the quote-unquote antagonist of the whole series. Although, as of yet, we still really don't have any major confirmation as to what's going on with that. Then we have Felt. Felt is like another C tier, honestly. Not really a fan of her personality or her looks. She's a good character, but insofar as, a waifu goes, I would not put Felt up there very high. Same with Beatrice. I love Beatrice as a character, don't like her as a waifu. That should be all of the no, maybe not. As far as we're talking about lolly characters here, let's just, go ahead and put all of the young ones down at the bottom, which makes it really funny. Who I forgot? Shit. Give me a second. Forgot fucking Liliana. The most obnoxious ReZero character. All right. Save that. Choose file. Let's upload. There we go. Okay, so Liliana is now in here. And as long as we're on that one, Liliana can go in E tier. Because at least I know for a fact that Liliana is an adult. She is over 20 years old. She is just very, very small. Mostly her personality is fucking obnoxious. So I'm not really a huge fan of that. And now we get into all of the interesting ones. Okay, so Minerva, the Witch of Wrath. I'd put Minerva in B. B because, well, Wood, I kind of like the way she looks, but she's got a bit of a interesting personality. Also, whenever she hits someone, they get healed, but it causes a calamity somewhere else in the world. So there's that. Capella can go in D because the fact that she can transform is, interesting and all that, shape-shifting and all that jazz. But her voice is obnoxious as hell, and she has a rotten personality. Similar thing I can say. I can say D with serious because you can't really tell what she looks like underneath all those bandages. I don't want anything to do with whatever the fuck is going on with her because she has all those bandages and she has a bit of a crazy personality. Echidna, I would put Echidna at, well, yeah, B tier. Because at least with Echidna, like, I know she's got a twisted personality, but she's hot and she'll at least act nice. So there's that. Elsa Graniert. I feel like Elsa deserves to go in the B tier category as well because, like, I mean, big titty vampire girl. She'll kill you, sure. But hey, at least she seems like a good time. Priscilla, I do genuinely think Priscilla belongs in the S tier. Like, for as much of a bitch as she can be, especially as you get later into the series, she gets a lot better. I actually do like her character. She's hot as fuck. So Priscilla can go in the S tier. Same with Rem. I like Rem because I value loyalty and also really well written character, especially as you get deeper and deeper into the series. Rom can go in B tier, honestly. I'm not into Rom whatsoever. She's a bitch. But she's not the worst one out there, so she's just kind of like a fucking stubborn cunt, is what she is. Cruce, S tier. Frederica, I don't know, C tier. The issue with Frederica is, like, I'm not necessarily into furry shit, so that one's a little weird. Cruce, I don't care what Rom versus Rem is literally Biggles versus Crimson. Amelia, I would give Amelia, A tier, which is y'all can fucking fight me. In terms of, like, character writing and everything, I think Amelia is better written than a lot of characters in here. It's just I'm not as interested in her as, like, waifu material. Anastasia, high A tier. Have you seen those hips? Have you seen how thick she is? Like, season 3, hot damn. Plus, she knows how to make money. Okay, she is business smart. She is tactical, and she got them hips. Okay. Teresa Van Estrella. Can go in B tier. I like her, but I still don't know a whole lot about her. She's a good person and all that, but, like, I don't know. That one's for Wilhelm. And then Mother Fortuna. I'm going to put Mother Fortuna A. Silver-haired elf girl. She at least goes in the A tier category. So that is how I personally would rank ReZero characters based on, waifu tier material. So, yeah. I'm not into, the more crazy women. There are certain personality quirks for some of these that I'm okay with and all that. We're just getting into, like, the, would smash and then move on. And then these ones up here are the ones that are like, okay, legitimate waifu tier kind of characters. But that said, that is where we're going to leave it for tonight. So next week, does anyone have any suggestions as to what I should do next week? Should I just do the Konosuba characters next week? Konosuba. I mean, it won't be very long, but I would be willing to, at least just knock it out. Maybe I'll do Konosuba, and then something else. I'll see if I can make it at least, decent. I'm not too far into Grand Blue yet, so we'll have to see about that one. Either way, I have plenty of anime to, rate waifus out of. So perhaps I will find another series to add on there. But I guess I'll do Konosuba and something else next week. So that being said, I am going to screen capture this. And then we are going to close out the show. So yeah, Mushoku Tensei is going to have to be a standalone one. Because and that's another one that has plenty of female characters. Mushoku Tensei is going to have to be a standalone. Same with like One Piece and Naruto and Bleach. But that said, thank you all for tuning in. Sorry about this being late. From now on, Crimson News Network is going to be 7 o'clock Wednesday. Every week except for the last Wednesday of the month, because that is Fictionology. So coming soon will be a little bit of members only content. There's a really weird conversation that I recorded one night while playing Battlefield that I'm going to be posting. And then, of course, we have the Ballad of One Frame Man that I've got to go over. Also, in the background, like I mentioned, I'm working on a bit of a Frieren video essay, but that one might not be out for a while because I'm going to try and post it at a more opportune time. Hopefully hold on to that until there's some, more Frieren discourse or whatever out there. That being said, again, thank you all for showing up. I appreciate your viewership. If you haven't hit the like button, you should right now because it helps support the channel. Also, for those of you who are, watching after the fact, leave a comment. I would appreciate that. It helps boost the algorithm and all that. And tune in for other videos and streams. We'll be going back at it on Saturday for Animated, and you will likely find that you can also find me on other places, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, good night. And thank you for the $2, Jeremy Turner. I appreciate it. Thank you. And good night.